While Berserk has had a long lifespan, it has always stuck out to me as a series defined by its one masterful arc, the Golden Age, with everything successive of this arc only broadening the application of the ideas found within it. Much of Golden Age Berserk centers itself thematically around dreams. The reason the Band of the Hawk was formed, the point of conflict between Griffith and Guts, and the one thing that Griffith lives for, a dream. This artifact of the human imagination, one that exists beyond the mortal world, into the realm of ideas, before it reflects back onto humanity, it at first seems dismissible in a lucid state, yet pulls you ever more down its path. This design is illustrated within the world itself, as, according to the mythology of Berserk, the domains of the mortal, the astral, and the ideal are separate, yet in some ways interconnected, with the former two fusing together late into the series. Before this became apparent, however, it was first aroused within our consciousness by the authoritative power of Griffith's dream. His desire. Griffith conjures his dream into the image of the castle upon the hill. The castle and the respective title of kingship are not his literal goal, but the material form of his desire. His hunger towards this desire, of which the castle only functions as a symbol, is what compels people towards him. The Band of the Hawk is not simply unable to fight for their own dreams. They are completely incapable of finding any symbol of their own that they might imbue with meaning. Griffith, though, is a human figure able to do that all on his own. The only symbol they can follow is that of the band itself under Griffith, which is notably the same as the brand of sacrifice. Truthfully, they offered themselves up as sacrifices as soon as they joined the band, as soon as they were born that way. The brand was mere material. Fighting and dying for not merely another's goal, but Griffith's supreme and all-encompassing desire for which he is willing to completely spurn all within the mortal world, from his dignity and body to finally his followers itself, is able to fill them with a meaning greater than any achievable by themselves. Griffith shares no less of a burden for the sacrifice than the band themselves, even if he may be the center of it all, as all knew that nothing could offset Griffith from his most revered wish. This excludes Guts, of course, but this is a separate issue. Griffith knew the consequences of the band intuitively, though not consciously until the eclipse itself, thanks to a peek inside of his own heart. This scene of the eclipse has stood out to me as the most profound moment in the series. The question the old lady poses to Griffith perfectly summarizes his entire character, to the point that no other words were truly necessary in the rest of the scene to convey its theme. It is this question that forces Griffith to reckon with himself, and to accept his desire in full consequence. Why couldn't he be satisfied with looking at the castle from below? Many men too wish for the comfort and physical pleasure of being the lord of a castle, yet Griffith ached so much deeper that he couldn't stop himself from going down that concrete path. More than the mere Machiavellian villain people make him out to be, Griffith in this moment finally realizes who he is, from the moment of his own birth to what it takes to transcend the conventions of the mortal world, beyond morality and closer to the realm of desire. The ideal world. For ideals and desires exist outside the grasp of moralism, which is a downstream material phenomenon. This is what entitled him to become part of the God Hand. His fate was not an external force influencing him to be a certain way, but rather the result of being noticed by humans and those beyond human alike for what was inborn. The choice of sacrifice, the choice of betrayal, was never a choice, nor truly a betrayal. This actualization is what entitles him to immortality. It is all the more impactful as we were forced to contemplate the band and its purpose in the face of Griffith's detritus state, along with Griffith himself. The fantasy that we see of him wedded to Casca in a simple family life is telling of both characters and how they see each other. Casca exasperates how she wants to salvage Griffith's pride, his honor, his immortality. She finds this immortality, perhaps in part due to her womanly nature, in the family. To someone like Griffith, however, even this is a pathetic state, still worse than death itself. This future is steady, quiet, all he offers to the world is the reproduction of his genes. This can't be the primary attainment. It is entirely chained to the mortal world. We see this in how Charlotte is but a stepping stone in Griffith's design. In this reasoning, he too comes to revile Guts for distracting him from his purpose. These two characters' survival from the eclipse are notable in what they represent here in opposition to Griffith, and what he is able to achieve compared to what they can. They are also significant in their specific treatment during the eclipse. Simply put, his mortal vanity was hurt, and humiliation felt so great that he felt the need to delight in this revenge. He felt the power over Casca because he was aware of her feelings, yet never would he reciprocate. Until Guts, this remains true, and it is in Guts that the band could even lose its meaning, becoming totally lost without Griffith and only knowing how to follow someone else in Guts. An especially wounding idea with the disgrace faced in the last duel. The subjugation of Casca and Guts becomes an ironic action and an unusually petty one for Griffith, yet, causality being what it may be, it is ironically Guts' influence upon Griffith that results in such a display of pettiness. In face of this vile action, I believe even Griffith is regretful. One tends to forget that Griffith's transformation was at the same time overwhelming as it was progressive. The melding of Griffith with that of Desire, analogous to the melding of mortal with astral, with man and idea, was not achieved until after the eclipse, in the incarnation ceremony, and the final external attainment in the great roar of the astral world. Upon Griffith's return to the mortals after having been molded in the very form of desire itself that he once symbolized as just a man, he becomes notably unmoving. His first real action following this ceremony is to visit the Hill of Swords, the grave of the band, and to see Guts. To see if it all arouses the same feelings as it did before. It does not. Not quite. In what seems like an utterly confusing move to all, he protects an oblivious Casca and displays ambivalence to Guts, even extending an olive branch to him. He himself has been almost entirely purified upon his return to corporeal form after being fully immersed and reborn as Desire incarnate in the astral plane. One could say he has become a man of the way in Taoist preachings, characterized by his emptiness or non-being, despite his being. Griffith's now transcendent desire then takes on an even more radical form, evolving upon its previous effects. Whereas before, Griffith could stare into a corrupt politician and strike fear into their soul, fear of reprisal, fear of his inevitability. He can now purge those same people of their petty coveting by his mere presence, imbuing them with the satisfaction in the melding of their own desires with that of Griffith's. Like the Buddha converting Aravaka with his wisdom, the depth of Griffith's spiritual power, more than any physical power he is granted, is able to pacify and subjugate even the oldest and fiercest of apostles. From Zod to the members of the reborn Band of the Hawk who follow Griffith in the same vein as the previous incarnation. But what truly remains Griffith's purpose still in this world? The castle upon the hill as an object is behind him, and now that he has consummated his self with his desire, as indeed they are one and the same, he still remains to complete his vision. This is more or less accomplished with the great roar of the astral world and the founding of Falconia. Griffith acts as a priest-king, mediating between effectively heaven, earth, and hell. Ritual and symbols abound in this world where humanity is elevated to a higher plane of existence, now imbuing everything within the material plane with the meaning of which it may have already implied, but now in its full expression. The best and worst of humanity, the uncertainty of the future, the domination of mind over matter, of idea over man. The world is the same as Griffith, desire which has possessed a mortal shell. This is why it is called the Golden Age Arc, and all that succeeds it is an effective dark age. Humanity, however petty and ignoble, once ruled themselves, or so they thought. Now we know that to be no longer true. All of this is foreshadowed in the Crimson Behelit, the egg of the king. Non-distinct forms, vaguely related to each other yet structureless, passive, before finally coalescing into the truest verbalization of deep-seated yearning, of innermost desire beyond human comprehension. A scream.